So one of the core founding principles of NLP, we talked about NLP being a big body of knowledge, like a kind of applied psychology that started in the late 70s. And I talked about it, how it's a concept, how it's a system of thinking. And one of the important things about NLP, and the first thing that I want you to kind of absorb and take on board, is this very kind of straightforward idea of outcome thinking. So with outcome thinking, you're thinking, or you're having it at the back of your mind, what is the outcome for this conversation? What is the outcome for this action that I'm taking right now, or this behavior? What is the outcome for me doing what I'm doing? And we're looking obviously for positive outcomes. That shifts the attention away from problems and into a more kind of cognitive way of behaving. It's a more conscious way of behaving, instead of just kind of, I'm just expressing my emotions, and I'm more conscious about what it is that I want to achieve. So that's the very first thing, and that's going to run through everything. And I also talked about NLP being a concept, like a way of thinking, right? So I want to introduce to you the first really fundamental concept or idea of NLP, and this is, you might have read it online, which is, the map is not the territory. So that is the quote. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, if you think about it, we take a step back. You think about it this way. Out there in the world, we have all this information that is coming to us. So basically, you have sensory inputs, you have auditory, you have visual, you have all these inputs. You've got all these chunks of information that comes to you at any given moment. And it's coming to you. And in order for you to become consciously aware of this information, it goes through a filtering system, which is going through a number of filters. So what we all do is we delete information that comes to us, and we distort information that comes to us, and we generalize information that comes to us. So, for example, have you ever had this experience of, if you moved into a street or a house that was on a busy street, you might have been thinking, like in the beginning, oh my God, how am I ever going to sleep here, and you're hearing the traffic. But after a week or 2 weeks, you're gonna not hear the traffic anymore. And people who live on like flight paths will tell you that they don't even hear the planes anymore. Also, possibly you've had arguments with people, or your spouse or your loved ones, and then they say to you, you said this and this, and you're like, there's no way that I said that. I just didn't say that. And you are 100% convinced. But if somebody was observing you, or somebody videoed you, you'd find out that you did actually say it, but you've just deleted the fact that you said it. And it goes the other way as well. So people who are listening to you are deleting a lot of what you're saying and picking up on other things. So deletion is a huge part of how we filter. And if we didn't delete, we would basically lose our minds, because there's no way that the mind can process that much information. So we have to be deleting all the time. And the other thing that we do is we generalize. Have you ever had this experience, like you've heard someone say, oh, I went to Turkey, I got food poisoning, I hate Turkey. Right? They might have just gone, sorry, like nothing against Turkey. Obviously, Turkey is a great place. But this is the point, right? They've had one experience, and then they have generalized from that experience. If you ever hear people say, people say that you should do this, or everybody thinks you should get married, or people say that you need to do blah blah blah. You'll hear, like, if you ever hear that is a generalization, so you're kind of wondering, well, who says, right? Some people generalize, and they say, all parking attendants are horrible people, or all women are like this, or all men are like that. So we have these generalizations. People generalize all the time, and this is part of our learning strategy. Like, we have to generalize, because generalizing allows me to understand, that this is a chair, and there might be a stool over there. That's also a chair. There's a sofa. That's also something I can sit on. So I've got 3 different objects, but I'm generalizing, and I'm putting it together into the same category in my mind. And that's how I can recognize the world and how I can understand the world. And the other way is we distort information. You know, somebody says to you, oh, you know, when we talked last time, you said this and this and this, and you're thinking, no, I didn't at all. That person could have been distorting what it was that you actually say. And even, you know, from a viewpoint of looking at, you know, arts, for example, you know, theatre and literature and works of art, they're all about taking reality and then distorting it back into a work of art. And also when we are looking at that work of art, we're again distorting it back into reality. Distortion is another thing that people do who are anxious and worried about things. Like, for example, let's say, you know, I had a bad experience at work, and then this experience, like, I'm really worried it's going to happen tomorrow. So how do I do that worry? Well, what I do is I might be, you know, lying in bed at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm creating pictures in my mind where I'm taking memories from the past and I'm distorting them and I'm changing them, and I'm making a movie about, I'm telling myself that this is about the future, and I'm making pictures and I'm making sounds and I'm making feelings inside, which are basically distortions. So we're deleting and we're distorting and we're generalizing. The other filter we have is we have a filter which is based on our beliefs. So, for example, if I feel or I believe that the world is a dangerous place and that most people are out to kind of get me or hurt me or, you know, kind of scam me in some way, then when I walk about my daily business, I will filter my information based on this belief that I have. So I'll be suspicious and I'll see people's actions and I'll read them from this belief. Like, you know, somebody who doesn't believe that at all, who believes the world is a good place and that most people are, you know, genuinely kind and friendly and want to help you, they will see the same actions, but they'll read them as completely different, you know, with different intent. So that's how an example of what we believe. If I believe, you know, we see people who are, you know, having relationship issues, maybe they'd be dating the wrong person over and over again, you know, they might believe that, you know, this is the way relationships are. So they're filtering in and paying attention only to people that will fulfill that belief, because that is the belief that they have. And it doesn't matter if you're aware of the belief. I mean, awareness is the first step to change, but you can be aware that you have this belief, yet still filter from the same filtering system. So that's how we filter through beliefs. We also filter through values. You know, values and beliefs are very closely connected, that you're going to see. And so what is important to us, that is also what we filter. So if it's very important, like if I have children and it's very important for me, so